Hey guys, GC here with Vendetta Waterfowl, and this is Snow Call Basics Episode 1. So today we're going to be talking about proper hand position, air introduction, and that basic single bark on a snow goose call. Now if you watch Spec Call Basics, you learned all the proper hand position and air introduction on a spec call. And there is a lot of similarities we'll carry over, but there's also a lot of differences. And the first of that being the hand position. So on a spec call, we learned that we're out on the end. We're barely holding the end of this spec call, and it's just sitting in your hand, but the insert is designed to be held that way. So is this snow goose call. It's held to be held the way it needs to be held. It's got a 2-rung pistol grip style insert. So you have the first rung and the second rung. So I'm going to take my call hand, and just this flat part on your thumb between this knuckle and this knuckle, you're going to set that first rung right there. Okay, and it just sits there. Again, we're not squeezing these calls, they just kind of sit in your hand. Now this index finger is going to wrap around the second rung, and it sits in there flush and just kind of holds it there, but it doesn't wrap around the end of the call. Our middle finger is what's going to come over the end of this call, and it just kind of touches my palm. You may have to adjust this to find the sweet spot, but it basically just sits against my palm and covers up a lot more of this call. We need a lot more back pressure on the exhaust of this because it has a longer reed, so we need a little bit more control. So we've got this middle finger over the end. We're going to take these two fingers and they just kind of follow suit, but I do have them kicked up a little bit more than with the spec call. Now the free hand, we actually are going to meet these palms together. Instead of sliding in this crack like we did with the spec call, we're going to meet these two palms together right here, and we're actually real wide open with that free hand right now. Now, with the single bark, that's what we're going to do, but down the road when we start doing other things, we will be moving our hands around and using our hands a lot more than we do with the spec call. Okay, we're going to use that free hand to manipulate this air a lot. But for right now, for the sake of the basics, just meet the palms. Your thumbs will probably touch back here too, and just kind of stay open, okay? And that's going to be for today's single bark. Now introducing the air, same thing. We're going to squeeze with our diaphragm and push with our throat. The difference comes in at the jaw and the lips, okay? So with the spec call, we were more of a streamline of air, that coming through a tight hole in your lips, and you're just streamlining that air. Now with the snow goose call, we need more of a bigger blast of air. So what I do is I close my jaw. I put my teeth together. I don't grit them. I just touch them together. Almost like if you were to touch your teeth and try to talk. You just touch your teeth together, and we're going to push that air just as we were before. And it just opens up that purse on those lips a little bit more. Okay? So it gives you a bigger volume of air going into the call. Now my tongue, I'm not really slamming it up against the back of my teeth, but I am stopping the air with my tongue. So it gives you that, it gives you that stop. You want a sharp stop on the end, but you don't want a pop on the end, if that makes sense. Okay? So in the call, it's going to sound like this. So it's just a half-second drag of air that we're putting into that call. Kind of like the drag notes, but it's just a half second. Just a bop, bop, bop. And that's the single bark. Now to practice it, take it and find that sound. Find that clean bark. Okay? If it's scratching out a little bit on you, you may have to adjust your hands, but it's not a huge deal because we're going to use that scratch bark later down the road when we get to talking about scratch barks. But for now, try to find that sweet spot, try to get that clean bark and control the call and have it doing what you want it to do. Now, to get the muscle memory of your hands down, do the same thing we did on the spec call. Practice putting the call down, picking it up, and hitting that single bark, and then put it down, pick it up, hit that single bark. Do that 15, 20 times a day. Week's time, you're going to fall right into place of where your hands need to be every time you pick up that call. So, next week, we're going to talk about the murmur. A murmur is a very, very important part of snow goose calling. You're going to use it a lot. That that ground sound they do, it's a beautiful sound to use in the field. We're going to cover that murmur. We're also going to talk about that low end shift on the single bark. So we're going to get a little bit of a ground game going with this top end single bark we have. So that'll be next week's episode. Be sure to like and subscribe. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. If you have any questions, want to see something out of some episodes, leave us a message. Don't be afraid. Leave us a comment, and don't be afraid to shoot us a message. We'd love to help. We're trying to, figure out what we need to show you guys in these later episodes. But right now, we're just covering the basics. So shoot us a message if something's giving you any trouble, and I'd be glad to help you. So that's going to wrap up today's episode. As always, I'm GC with Vendetta Waterfowl. Get mean, get even.
It's once a year, every day through the fire.